Okay, good evening. Rebecca, could you give the invocation this evening?
Yeah, good evening. Pastor Rebecca O'Block, Ignite Church. It's great to be in here with you guys. I've been thinking about what to pray over today for a couple of weeks, actually, in preparation. And there's a couple of verses I want to read. We've got Jeremiah 33:9. See, this is about speaking over our city what is truth that may not look like our reality right now. And so I just want to say that this city will bring me, God, renowned joy, praise, and honor before all nations on the earth that hear of all the good things I do for it. And they will be in awe, and they will tremble at the abundant prosperity and peace I provide for it. And then I see in Psalm 91:10, it says, no harm will overtake you, and no disaster will come near your tent. And so I just want to say, Jesus, instead of fear, I just release the opposite, which is love. I release the love and your goodness and your glory over the city. God, I thank you that the businesses that are affected in what's going on in this time and season, Lord, I just pray that you would give each business owner the peace that passes all understanding, that all things will be recuperated, all things will be returned, that you will take the ashes and turn them into beauty. And I thank you, Lord, that the churches that are right now have closed doors, but God, they still have open hearts. And I thank you, Lord, that the giving even increases and multiplies, and that each church stays established and strong. And God, I thank you for the ones that are unemployed during this time, that God, you have provided supernaturally for everything that they need. Father, I pray for the lonely in this season that are unable to be touched. And God, I thank you that you are finding other ways to create connection and to create different ways of being touched. And I pray for the elderly, and I just say you are not alone. You are not abandoned. And God, I just thank you, Lord, that each person gets just a kiss from your very heart today. And so, Lord, I bless what City Council is doing. I bless our city. I bless them and say that we bring renown, joy, praise, and honor before all nations of the earth. And God, I just declare your goodness and your mercy, and God, your protection over the city, over these council members, over this government. God, I thank you for a wise government that is full of integrity, that is full of honor, and full of goodness. In Jesus, I pray.
Amen. Thank you, Rebecca. So now we'll officially call to order the City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Attending in person, Mayor Miller.
Here.
Alderpersons Parker.
Here.
And Mysick.
Here.
Alderpersons attending remotely, Borneman.
Sorry about that. I'm present.
McClanathan.
McClanathan's here.
Ross. Ross is absent. Busker.
Here.
Brashaw.
Here.
And Berberet.
Here.
Also in attendance for the City of Freeport, Department Heads and City Manager Bucas.
Here.
Fire Chief Liggett.
Here.
Matt Summers is in attendance. Do we have any department heads attending remotely? Zupkoff?
Here.
Carr?
Here.
Kopansky?
Here.
Huffines?
Here.
Jansen? Hines?
Here.
Richter?
Here.
And I apologize, I'm all over the place. Also present in person, Sutman. Clerk Anderson is here, and Attorney Zito.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Borneman. We'll start here with Alderman Misick. Okay, item number 1 is the approval of the agenda, and just so that way the council is aware, there is no executive session tonight, so that will be removed, as well as item number 10 is not yet ready, so that will happen on the next council meeting. So with that, is there a motion for approval of the agenda? Okay, so we're going to do an actual roll. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Borneman,
I can't hear through the call anymore.
Couldn't hear it either. Couldn't hear the roll call.
McClanathan,
Unmuted.
Ross, can you hear me? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Parker,
Can hear it now.
Yes, here.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
trying McClanathan one more time.
Aye. I can hear you now.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so we'll get these little bugs worked out and keep going. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on March 16th, 2020, the Finance Committee of the whole meeting on March 2nd, 2020, and the special meeting on March 9th and March 23rd. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Misick, seconded by Alderman Parker, and Council, if you happen to chime in, you're going to have to say your name because I won't be able to tell who's who. So right now, we're going to go with Misick and Parker. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
and Berberet.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so item number 3 is public comments on the agenda, and there is nothing on the agenda for public comments, so we'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and will be acted as one motion unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Is there anyone that would like to have something further discussed, council? Seeing no response, the consent agenda consists of A, the approval and placing on file the Board of Fire and Police Commission minutes from February 25th, 2020. That's a typo. It's not 2019, it's 2020. The Library Finance Committee minutes from February 6th, the Library Board of Trustees minutes from February 12th, the Fire Department report for February 2020, the Building Permit report, March 2020, and the Greater Freeport Partnerships report dated March 26, 2020. Also is B, the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $783,588.70, and C, the approval of payroll for pay period ending March 17th in the total of $607,972.14, as well as March 28th, 2020 in the total of $543,346 and 81 cents. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda? And Madam Clerk, could you please note that Alderman Ross just arrived and it is 6:10. Thank you.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Misick, seconded by Alderman Parker for the approval of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClenathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
and Berberet.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Madam
I-
Clerk, or Madam Mayor,
Yes.
typically we have also the authorized writing in regards to this. How do we plan on addressing this?
We didn't get anything you just said.
I think he's talking about this. I can scan it in and get email approval if that works for you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman McClanathan. Item number 5 is the appointments. Madam Clerk, would you please read this for the record?
Acceptance of appointment of Lou M. Stambaugh to the Library Board effective immediately through May 31st, 2022. Acceptance of appointment of Jeff Williams to the City Manager Recruitment Committee effective immediately.
Thank you. Is there a motion for acceptance?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
and Berberet.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 6 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-19. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed 55 million taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2020 of the City of Freeport for the purpose of funding all or a portion of the unfunded liability of said city's police and fire pension funds, a budget stabilization fund for such unfunded liability, the levy and collection of a direct annual tax for the payment of the principal and interest on said bonds, and the sale of said bonds to Robert W. Baird.
Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm recommending at this time that we table this ordinance. The fundamentals are up in the air right now when it comes to the market. There's a lot of turmoil. There's some market uncertainties. Even though the interest rates are probably the lowest they'll ever be. I mean, the Feds, a week ago or so, lowered their rates to 0%. But I think this is not a good time right now to continue on with this. We'll have to look at it again when the markets start to stabilize a little bit.
Is there a motion, Council, for tabling?
Mayor?
I'm sorry, was that McClanathan?
Yes. We're at second reading. If we table it, what's the procedure for bringing it back versus moving it a couple months?
This is Attorney Zito. Ultimately, once you motion to lay it on it just sits on the table there until such time as you guys are ready to take it off and rediscuss it. So if in a couple of months things look better and you guys are ready to discuss it, it can be placed on the agenda to have it removed from the table and brought back before the board, before the council.
Thank you. I'd make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Misick to table ordinance 2020-19. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll? Yes. Somebody say,
Madam Mayor?
and who's talking? Busker?
Busker here. He kind of cut out. Was there a certain date that it was able to, or indefinitely?
No, until such a time that the council wants to bring it back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Mayor, this is Borneman.
Yes, Alderman Borneman.
To Director Bucus, what's a realistic timeline to take this off the table?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I really have no idea. A lot has to do with the pandemic that's taking place, and until we start seeing stabilization in the markets, I would recommend that we not move forward with it at this time.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions, council?
Mayor? Mayor?
Is that McClanathan? Yes.
Yes, just a note, there's still a lot of feedback on our end. And I know they talked about muting when we're not being on here, but I just want to bring it up again because it's pretty hard to hear everybody. A lot harder than at the prior meetings.
Okay, so if everyone that's remote, if you could please mute your connection, and we'll try to give enough time in between for people to be able to make their comments. So as of right now, we have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, unless there's further discussion, could you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
I'll abstain.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Abstain.
Mysick,
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstention.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-21. Could you please read this for the record?
Ordinance ratifying declaration of local state of emergency and disaster.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance basically allows the mayor to declare a state of emergency at this time through May 4th, 2020, unless otherwise extended by the city council. Basically, we're acknowledging that an emergency exists and that there's really no change in the ordinances that we currently have. We're just, in section 3, we're just pointing out what the 3 chapters that would be affected by this declaration, by this ordinance.
And Manager Bucus, this is really something that all communities are doing, and it just gives the ability to apply for different monies that might be available, correct?
Yes, not only that, but it also allows you to make a declaration for more than just 1 week. It allows you to make a declaration to May 4th.
Okay, so this is my next question then, Council. Do we want to put anything additional is amending into that writing and say after where it states May 4th, amend it to say something to the effect of, or until the executive order by the governor is lifted, so we don't have to come back to it. But if you want to come back to it, that's fine. It's just an item of discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
is May 4th our first scheduled council meeting in May?
Yes, I believe so.
And I assume this was put in place, as you indicated, in response for funding and as a response to the COVID-19 situation and at the recommendation of some of the emergency management agencies to have this in place?
Yes.
So how do we want to handle this, Council? I'm sorry, Alderman McClanathan, I couldn't understand a whole lot of what you said.
If we're going to be here anyway on May 4th, and currently the executive order is due to expire on April 30th, if it gets extended, we can just address it on May 4th.
Yes, that's correct, we can. Is that the council's pleasure?
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Borneman?
Yeah, I'm in line with that thought and would make a motion to approve this.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman Parker to move ordinance 2020-21 forward.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Busker.
Alderman Busker?
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Misick to suspend the rules for ordinance 2020-21. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension of the rules only?
Mayor, did your suggestion pass or not? Is that an amendment or no?
No.
Okay. On the suspension, Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Suspending the rules passes 8-0.
Okay, so just so everyone's clear, the amendment, or I'm sorry, there is no amendment to this ordinance. It stands until the 4th of May, which is the next council meeting, and if we need to address it further, then we will. So now before you, council, is the ordinance for final passage. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the final passage of 2020-21?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
And the motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8, which is the first reading of ordinance 2020-22. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving guidelines for electronic participation at open meetings.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance basically allows, for the most part, what you're doing right now, but I want to point out a couple of differences since the governor has waived some of the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. This ordinance allows members to, whether it be the city council or any advisory board, to attend any open or closed meeting of the city by electronics. The person would have to notify the city clerk at least 24 hours prior to the meeting so we could have the proper electronic equipment set up. The member may only attend a meeting electronically if the member is unable to physically attend because of either illness or disability, employment purposes, or city business, or a family or other emergency. In order to attend a meeting electronically, a quorum of the city council, committee, or advisory board, as the case may be, must be physically present. So we have to have at least 5 people here to attend the meeting. And then those present will have to vote to allow or authorize the member to participate electronically. Any member attending electronically shall be considered an off-site attendee and counted as present electronically for the meeting, as we have been doing this evening. And all votes taken must be recorded by roll call, as we are doing tonight. And that's the basics of this ordinance, Your Honor.
Thank you. Discussion, council.
Mayor, this is Borneman.
Yes, Alderman Borneman.
I guess I'm confused with the way the ordinance, what we're doing now, although our policy is, this is different now because governor's executive order and relaxation of the Open Meetings Act. So this is an ordinance anticipated forward under normal circumstances. Is that right? Not an emergency?
That is correct, Alderman. This is
Okay.
This would be our normal procedures if we wanted to do electronic meetings or if somebody couldn't attend because they were out of town.
That makes sense. That's just my question. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, Alderman McClanathan.
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Is this something that most municipalities have incorporated in one form or another?
I believe so. Nowadays, there's quite a few communities that are starting to look at how they could conduct meetings electronically and still meet the Open Meetings Act.
What's your pleasure, council?
Well, one more question from Horniman. And I think you just mentioned this is an ordinance that is allowed under the Open Meetings Act, correct?
Alderman, I believe your question was, is this allowed under the Open Meetings Act? And yes, it is. But I believe state statutes as it pertains to the Open Meetings Act requires that a physical quorum be present at any meeting before you can have anybody participate electronically.
This is Attorney Zito.
Thank you.
And so for the benefit of the council, this ordinance is drafted such that it's in conformance with state statute in normal circumstances. So this is the rule, this is the baseline. Obviously with the COVID epidemic, the governor's executive order has relaxed some of these rules, but these rules are what are normally set forth in the state statute.
Madam Mayor,
I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, so I'm guessing, Alderman Borneman, you'd like to move ordinance 2020-22 forward? Is that your?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a second to move this forward?
second.
So we have a second made by Alderman Ross to move ordinance 2020-22 forward.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Busker,
Alderman Busker?
motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Parker for suspension of the rules. Once again, suspension of the rules is non-debatable. It must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the suspension of the rules only?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Okay, so now before you, council, is the final passage for this ordinance. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Mysick.
in section E, or in section C, the law, as Attorney Zito had just mentioned, how section C is laid out is based on current law, the way it's written. And what we're suggesting today is to approve this as such and allowing the governor's order to override. My reason for clarity on this is some of the requirements listed here about 2/3 present, we're unable to accommodate some areas of that. I just want to make sure that we have a process that is documented here.
I think the answer to your question is yes. These are the rules under normal circumstances as set forth by state statute. Now, the governor's order has relaxed these rules, but the governor's orders are going to eventually one day go away, and we want an ordinance that mirrors what the normal requirements are under state statute.
Okay. So just to clarify, that's these two separate items. For now, we continue to operate under the governor's order, and then we revisit this as a discussion. Thank you for the clarification.
Correct.
Any further discussion, council? Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the final passage?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-23. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
An ordinance adopting a COVID-19 related emergency paid sick leave policy and an emergency family medical leave expansion act policy.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's actually two different federal statutes now that we're approaching on this ordinance. The first one is the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, also as known as the EPSLA, which I won't repeat because it's too hard to do. In addition to the eligibility to exercise accrued sick leave and so forth in the city's current sick leave policy and sick leave language in the city's collective bargaining agreements, an eligible employee may receive up to 80 hours of paid sick leave, and then there's criteria setting it out. The amount of wages paid under this policy is subject to both federal guidelines that have to be paid. An employee who is sick with other illnesses should stay home and utilize leave as he or she typically would be following the city's establishment of the sick leave policy or provided for in the collective bargaining agreement. An employee must document from their respective public health authority and or health care provider clearing them to return to work prior to coming back to work onto our premises. There are a number of exclusions to this, and those include the emergency first responders, which are defined as all police department employees, all fire department employees, all public works department employees, including but not limited to those employed in the streets, water, sewer, and forestry divisions, the building inspector, the nuisance inspector, the code enforcement supervisor, the finance director, the deputy finance director, and the city manager. The second act is the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act. This act basically amends the Family and Medical Leave Act, which we are currently following, to create a new category to protect leave for eligible employees who cannot work or telework due to the need to care for a son or daughter if the child's school or place of care has been closed and a child care provider is unavailable due to the COVID-19. The total amount of available leave under this act is 12 weeks, as followed by the federal the Family Medical Leave Act. Under the new act, the first 2 weeks of the 10 days of leave is non-paid, but they can use the previous act that we just read about for those 10 days, or they can use their own sick time to be paid for those 10 days. Then they are eligible for an additional 10 weeks of leave, at which time their salary would be based on what they were making at that time. It could be anywhere from 2/3 to 100% of the salary that they were making. And again, there's exclusions to this, and they are the same exclusions as I previously read. I'm open to any questions.
Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan?
thank you. So basically, this just gets us in compliance with some recently enacted federal laws and provides for the exclusions that were also a part of those federal laws dealing with the COVID-19 situation, correct?
That is correct. There's a total of 12 weeks that a person could take based on the COVID situation that we're in right now, which is basically 3 months. There's a concern about whether we can maintain some essential services if everybody took their 12 weeks and then took their additional sick time and vacation time, and that's one reason why we're excluding certain employees and certain employee work groups from this federal regulation.
Any other?
Madam Mayor, Alderman McClanathan,
Yes, Alderman McClanathan?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Brashaw to move 2020-23 forward.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan?
I'd move to suspend the rules on this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Misick to suspend the rules on ordinance 2020-23. Again, suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The suspension passes 8-0.
So now before you, council, is the final passage of this ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Okay, next is item number 11, which is the adoption of Resolution 2020-18. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
A resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with LexisNexis CopLogic Solutions.
And Chief Summers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to be brief, the police department has had a relationship with LexisNexis where we shared accident data. They purchased the accident data from us to put into a database of their own that's utilized by numerous law enforcement agencies across the country to conduct investigations. They came back and wanted to amend the current agreement that they had with us. They wanted to make sure that if they purchased the data one time, that if they needed to acquire that data again, that we wouldn't purchase or charge them a second fee for that same data that they'd already purchased in bulk when they purchased that. The agreement was checked over by the attorneys and sent back to LexisNexis for some other changes, and then sent back again, and the attorneys approved the agreement. So I'm asking for approval to enter into the agreement with LexisNexis.
Did you say there's no funding?
There is no funding available. They pay us on a monthly basis to determine how many accidents we have. It's all determined on that.
Thank you. Questions, council? Alderman Parker.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Is there any further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-22. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with the Freeport Community Foundation regarding Lucas chest compression devices.
And Chief Liggett.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Freeport Fire Department is partnering with the Freeport Community Foundation to raise money in order to purchase Lucas device, continuous compression CPR machine. I previously briefed the council on the project, and we're bringing for you today a resolution that authorizes to approve the attached agreement and actually state the terms of which the partnership will comply with the requirements of the city and the community foundation. This is important to us because we need to be able to purchase the devices that we're currently raising funds for. We have the ability, we've already ordered one and it is in-house, and we are prepared to order the second one, and we're waiting for this agreement to make that happen. How the system works, this is very similar to the agreement that Freeport Community Foundation had with the police department for the K-9 unit. The city expends the funds and then seeks reimbursement from the Freeport Community Foundation to make the city whole. The funding is for 4 units, $14,886 apiece, and I would ask that the council approve this resolution so that we can move forward. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Any questions, council?
Madam Mayor, Alderman Busker.
Alderman Busker.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 22.
Berberay would second that.
Okay, so the motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Berberay for the adoption of Resolution 2020-22. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Okay, so we kind of forgot about item number 13. We should have put that, but I guess we're going to just go in that direction, same as before. Okay, so item number 13 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-23. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Resolution of the City of Freeport authorizing and approving a pension obligation bond policy.
Manager Bucus?
Thank you, Your Honor. As we did with the second reading on the bond issue itself, I'm recommending that we table this resolution until such time as we bring the bond forward.
Madam Mayor, Alderman McClanathan,
Alderman McClanathan?
I'd make that motion to table.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Ross to table the Resolution 2020-23. Any further discussion, Council? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
I'll abstain.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Abstain.
Meissick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
Motion, the resolution is adopted. Well, no, not actually. The motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions.
Item number 14 is a motion to approve bid. Could you please read this?
Bid opening on March 18th, 2020 for demolition and asbestos abatement on 4 tax trustee properties under fiscal year 2020 IDNR grant.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city purchased 4 properties from the county tax trustee as part of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Flood Hazard Mitigation Grant to demolish and keep as green space these properties. The cost to purchase, demolish, and asbestos abatement services will be 100% reimbursed through the IDNR grant program, which is to be completed by June 30th, 2021. The city received 3 bids for the demolition and asbestos removal on Wednesday, March 18th. One of the bidders, SS Chicago, does not have an approved apprenticeship program with the U.S. Department of Labor that we could determine. They also had a complaint filed against them by a local village that they were doing some work in, and they're not listed in the Illinois Secretary of State's Corporation LLC Certificate of Good Standing. So therefore, staff's recommending that they not be considered in our bid. Staff is recommending, therefore, that the demolition services, abatement services be awarded to Northern Illinois Services for 25 South Sherman Street and 38 South Johanna Street, and Fisher Excavating for 47 South Hancock Avenue and 715-719 East Stevenson Street. The total of all 4 demolitions would be $68,265.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Busker.
Alderman Busker? Alderman Busker?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross to approve bids as so stated. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan?
I just want to be clear on the record that the motion and the second was regarding the recommendations by staff and not on some of them for the lowest bidder, for the reasons that at least as another municipality has indicated there was not an apprenticeship program with SS Chicago Construction that was authorized with the Department of Labor, an open complaint with another local municipality regarding the workmanship done by SS Construction, and also the fact that that is not a company in good standing with the Illinois Secretary of State, which could provide contractual problems for us. Is that all accurate?
Yes, it is.
Mayor, this is Borneman.
Alderman Borneman?
Director Bucus, this is 100% reimbursed, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Ross?
when do we suspect to see this the demolition would start, I should say?
Once we get all the contracts signed and delivered, I would assume, depending on their work schedule, within 3 months.
3 months. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the approval of the bids?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Item number 15, Madam Clerk, would you please read the next bid approval?
Bid opening on April 1st, 2020, MFT Materials in Aggregate.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you recall, we rejected our MFT material bid a few weeks ago, and we rebidded the project. We only had one bid, and that was from ConMat, who had bid in for $50 per ton for asphalt, $130 per ton for cold patch, and $7.50 per ton for shoulder aggregate. Martin, who was the previous bidder on our last time, did not submit a bid this time. The bid that we rejected was for $49 per ton for asphalt. However, they're located in Oregon, and our transportation costs would be more than what the current bid is for $50 a ton. Therefore, staff is recommending that council approve the bid from ConMat from Freeport for the hot mix asphalt at $50 a ton, cold patch at $130 per ton, and aggregate at $7.50 per ton.
Madam Mayor, Alderman McClanathan.
Yes, Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Manager Bucus, what's your opinion as to what's going on? I recall last time we only received one bid, and we were told that another local entity mixed up their deadlines. We rebid, and now we've only got one bid again, and it's a different one. Anytime we only have one bid, it's concerning. Any insight as to this in the process?
Yes, the Public Works Director did contact Martin as to why they didn't bid, and they felt they already gave their price out there for everybody to bid again, so that's why they did not bid again.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
do we generally only have 2 or 3 firms that we would anticipate being bidding on these materials?
We're lucky if we have 2 because of the distance that is required. If you recall, last year we awarded a bid both to Martin and to Silva or ConMat because they were pretty close on their bids. If you took into consideration travel time for Martin, I believe Martin at that time was the low bidder, but I think we only got like 1 load from them when Silva was not in operation because of the time that it takes to get down there and back.
And ConMed is a Freeport company?
Yes, it's part of Civil.
What's your pleasure, council?
Mayor, this is Borneman.
Alderman Borneman?
Director Bucus, obviously, has an option to approve, and we could also choose to not approve. I mean, if we were to not this, what would that process look like? And do you expect us to get a better result from another board?
Alderman, if I understood your question correctly, you were asking whether we should, if we rebid this, could we expect better results? My answer to that would be no, because really there's only one local firm here that would bid on it. For some reason, if there's an asphalt plant in Rockford, they're not interested in bidding here. I don't know why.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt this resolution, Mayor.
I would second.
You would like to make a motion to approve the bid?
Yeah, thank you.
And was that second McClanathan?
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion, council? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman McClanathan to approve the bid as so stated with CONMAT. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
and Berberay.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. So next is reports from department heads. So we're going to try to do the remotes first and see how this goes. Finance, do you have anything to report?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Director Zupkoff, do you have anything to report? Manager Bucus, is there anything you'd like to report on behalf of Director Zupkoff?
No, I do not, Your Honor. Thank you. I don't think you have any further.
Hello.
Oh, are
Can
you
you
there? Okay.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, I have a couple of things, Your Honor. The last couple of weeks in community development, we've been in contact with local businesses, helping them with 3 programs offered through the State Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Receiving, good correspondence with the business community. Glad the state's offering those programs. And I would also offer, since the governor's stay-at-home order went into effect 2 weeks ago, we have been continuing to issue building permits. I looked before the end of the day. We've issued over 20 building permits in the last couple of weeks, so it is encouraging to see people still continuing to spend money. We do have a couple of big projects in the pipeline. Those are ongoing. So, despite everything going on in the world, there's a little business that continues to go on, which is encouraging to see.
I would agree. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to Public Works. Director Carr.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
And Director Kopansky.
Yes, Madam Mayor, nothing tonight.
And Assistant Hines, are you there?
Yep. I just wanted to say, the report's at 52.6% self-response rate, and just want to make sure if you haven't filled out your census yet to get that done.
I kind of think she's talking about the census and encouraging citizens to get that done. Is that correct?
Sounds good to me.
Mayor?
Yes.
This is Borneman. When is the deadline for the census?
Sometime in August.
Assistant
Great.
Hines, is there an actual deadline before people are visited to their home?
The official deadline is August 14th. The census will start going door to door towards the end of May.
So we'd like to encourage people to get that filled out mid-May in order to avoid having someone knocking at your door, correct?
Yes.
Anything further? And then next would...
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then next would be Huffines, Director Huffines.
Good evening. I just wanted to report that all of the employees at the library are working on special projects, but we miss all of the patrons a lot. So there's things getting done, and we're happy that we all have jobs. So, thank you.
Thank you. And
Madam
Alderman
Mayor.
Misick?
A question for Director Huffines. Are there still services such as electronic renewals and electronic checking out of books during this time?
All of the electronic things are still there. So all of our ebooks and e-audiobooks and some of our electronic resources are all available. Any of the items that are already checked out that are physical, none of those are receiving any type of overdraft fees or overdue fees. And we're just waiving all fines, and we do have it set up in our system to extend all of the due dates. Our book drops are open, so if somebody is really feeling a lot of anxiety about having a library book at their house, they can drop it off. We will check it in. Did that answer all your questions?
Yes, thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So next we will move on to the department heads that are in-house. Fire.
Madam Mayor, the only thing I have to report out on is our continued efforts to prepare for and respond to the pandemic. All of our operations are at normal capacity right now. Tower 3 is back in service. In the last couple of weekly reports, you saw that it was out of service for repairs, but it is now back in service. We are supplied up for all the things that we need for responding to the pandemic, and we certainly appreciate the community's support. And again, thank you again for our masks that we carry every day. I can show you, I got mine right here with me, just in case. So thank you very much again.
You're welcome. It was our pleasure to do that.
We are looking for the possibility of gowns. And I don't know if you might want to research that, because we wouldn't mind coming up with that possibility as a backup plan also. Thank you.
Do you have a gown in mind?
Well, our neighbor, the department I came from, Beloit, they posted on their Facebook page a family in the Beloit region supplied them with gowns for the whole department, and I don't know where they got their pattern from, but I'm going to find out.
Okay, you look into the details and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
And next would be fire. Yeah, my apology, police.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to ask the community for their assistance during this shelter-in-place time. We've had a lot of problems and a lot of complaints in different areas. We see a lot of people gathering in the parks and in the shelters, and I just want to remind everybody that it's 10 or less. We're working with the Park District, and the Park District's working very hard to control that also. I've had a couple conversations with the Park District, as well as the businesses that are here. Some are essential, some are non-essential, and we're working through those on who can remain open, who can remain closed. Along with some of the restaurants, we've had some complaints with restaurants where it appears that there's people inside maybe consuming and eating in there, and sometimes it's employees that we found, but that gives the appearance to the rest of the community that some businesses may not be going along with the program, how it can be. I just ask that people be cognizant of what they're doing so we can keep the community in and keep everybody safe and do what we need to do to get through this time period.
Thank you. Would you suggest, Chief, that if someone is in the park we've been getting a lot of phone calls after the fact. Would it be wise if they call the non-emergency number to inform you or to inform the park district that it's currently happening? It's too late to call and complain to us about it days later because there's no way to address that.
Correct. Sorry about that. That was on my list to address. You call the police department non-emergency number, and whether we dispatch it to the park district or we handle it ourselves, we can go out there and make sure that the groups, if it's in the park, if it's on a basketball court that's not in the park, or someplace that you see large groups, you call us and let us know, and we can go address that and hopefully disperse that crowd.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to address that. I go to the park a couple times, usually early in the morning, and walk. And there's about 7, 8 people there maybe in the whole park. But in the last couple weeks since trout season opened up, that's where 90% of the biggest crowd is along the creek for trout fishing in Great Park. So.
Thank you. IT. Nothing tonight. So then we will move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a number of items for your information tonight. First of all, last Thursday evening, we received an email from the county treasurer that the property tax payments for this year may be delayed. Usually we get them by the 1st of July. She's stating that we may not see them until the 3rd week of July, and that we should anticipate that the amount would be less than we're normally receiving. And as you know, we haven't raised our property taxes for the last 3 or 4 years, and so it's kind of disarming to hear that we may get less than what we normally do. So I'm not sure what that's about, but we are looking at our cash flow right now, how we're going to get through August and September with the possibility of not having property taxes coming in. And being a bearer of good news to continue, the state controller's office has also announced today that she is going to be withholding, or at least not paying, making payments to vendors, including us, cities and counties and villages, because of their cash flow problems. So that's going to put a little kink in our cash flow as well. So we're going to be watching that very closely. We were already monitoring our state payments because we rely heavily on the sales tax, and we know in the next couple of months we're going to start seeing a decline in that. In the past, the state has taken 2% of our sales tax money, and last year, I believe it was, they lowered it to 1.5%. So if you listen to the governor's remarks the other day, he said that his budget is completely out the window and he's starting all over again. My concern is that we're going to see the state taking more of our state sales tax to help them pay for their cash flow. And I can see the income tax that we receive, which was supposed to be 10%, which is now down to 6.4%, I believe, of their collections. So we're getting less and less. Plus, they're tapping into the personal property replacement tax that we use for our pensions to fund other types of activities, such as the college fund last year. So we could probably see another hit on that respect as well. The good news is we received our IMRF, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, rate for next year, our preliminary rate, and right now it's set at 7.37%. This current year we're paying 8.36%, so it's 1% down. Concern is if the stock market doesn't go back up over the next 9 months, we could probably see a big hit come 2021. I also like to remind people too that they can make their water and sewer payments, their fine payments, and other payments that they need to make in our 2 drop boxes. The first drop box is located on Cherry Street and Stevenson Street, and the second one is by our back entrance on Exchange Street. We do collect those boxes on a regular basis, and so if you have a water bill or that you need to pay, those are the areas that you should be making your payments. We prefer that you did it electronically. There's 2 ways of doing it, and they're both on our website if you want to check. Lastly, Your Honor, I want to dispel the rumors that there are 1,200 homes without water. It's just that, a rumor. I'd like to give you some facts about what's taking place. There was a Freedom of Information Act request wanting to have a copy of the city's, quote, shut-off note reports from the first of the year to today's date. This is a very broad request. It includes vacant properties, vacant apartments, houses that were demolished but still have the availability for water. It includes squatters, individuals that ask for the service to be turned off for a variety of reasons, including remodeling, property for sale, probate, outside water foundations, and just empty commercial buildings and foreclosures, etc. To think that the city should just flip the switch and worry about the financial aspects later would be irresponsible and disastrous, to say the least. The city passed an ordinance that temporarily helps those that cannot pay during our current pandemic situation. No services will be turned off, but everyone is still responsible for what they use and will eventually have to pay for their consumption. Let's remember, nothing is free. The taxpayer eventually pays, so let's be wise in our stewardship. Do the citizens want another rate increase? Are these individuals or groups willing to pay for someone's overdue water bill? The city of Freeport always believes that you have to do the right thing at the right moment as we look at the various situations, along with keeping in mind that we are responsible for all our citizens. To date, the city has turned on water for 4 individuals that have come to us. With every caller concerned about water with no water, they say, let me try to rephrase that. I need a drink of water, excuse me. With every caller that has a concern about people without water, meaning those groups and individuals that are concerned about people without water, the response has been the same. Please have them contact the city and we'll happily review it on a case-by-case basis. For a humanitarian viewpoint, the question has been, how can someone live without water during this pandemic? There is water for every positive tested case in Freeport. According to Stevenson County Health Department and the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, a family may live without city water supply as long as they have water available, be it through gallon jugs or water bottles. So how many have no water? There were 226 locations on the shut-off report. 26 were paid but were miscoded. Only 30 were residential properties, of which 6 were owner-occupied. Of those 30 properties, only 4 have called the city asking for reinstatement of services, and that has been granted. On others, the property owners wanted the water turned off. Others were condemned property, property bought in foreclosure, property in foreclosure, probate and or vacant property that will not be rented out, but will, because the landlord has failed to pay the bill. The city is willing to work with individuals on a one-by-one basis during this time, as we have prior to the epidemic. Individuals and groups willing to donate or make the payments for these individuals are free to do so. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Manager Bucus. I just have one question that you didn't address. I don't know if you'd like to say anything about the next committee of the whole.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'd like to ask council to not have a committee of the whole meeting next week. Trying to keep our meetings down is one reason why I'm proposing this. We do have 3 or 4 issues that we're working on, and what I'd like to do is just tack those on to the end of our next meeting in May.
Is everyone okay with that? Alderman Parker?
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Is anyone opposed to that, Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan?
just to be clear, he said no committee of the whole meeting next week?
Correct. He wants to put it all together on the last meeting of the month.
That was my question.
Okay, so have a cow then?
It would all be together on whatever that date is.
April 20th. Okay.
April 20th.
I was looking at the wrong month.
Okay.
So April 20th, it'll be combined.
Thank you.
Any further questions concerning Manager Bucus's comments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alderman Parker?
Madam Mayor, Alderman McClanathan.
Alderman McClanathan?
Thank you. I have a handful of questions. Starting with your first topic about property taxes. If I heard you correctly, you said we can expect our first payment to be a few weeks late and of a lesser amount. Was there any indication as to, one, what caused the delay, and two, what is contributing outside of the general economic conditions to the lesser amount?
No, the email we received did not state what the reason was for the possible delay, nor why we would have a lower cash flow or a lower
Follow-up,
payment.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. What is the authority of the state for withholding these funds, and what is the municipal recourse, if any?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head as to why they would be allowed to withhold an amount that otherwise would belong to us. So that's something I will have to drill down on.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Yes.
Is the Illinois Municipal League providing any guidance or anticipating any action?
Not at this point. They just informed us of it today.
Understood. I just know I'd like us to keep an eye on that, as obviously it's going to have a significant impact on our basic services. But following up, I appreciate the facts and summary that Manager Buick has provided regarding the water situation. Did I hear you correctly at the end say that when you distill all the other shutoffs out of it, we're dealing with 30 residential properties, 4 have contacted you and had some resolution, and the other entities can contact City Hall to discuss resolution?
That is correct.
Thank you. That's certainly a lot more encouraging and comprehensive. I appreciate you putting some of the facts out there.
Alderman Parker?
Yes, I've been getting the phone calls on the water as everybody else has, and I don't need all that what you just gave, but is there a chance in the next week or so I could get a summary of what you said? So if I tell people, I'm telling the same thing you are instead of me trying to interpret what you said and that. So if just a summary of what you talked about.
I'll be happy to. I'll send it to all the council members.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Manager Bucus?
Mayor Borneman,
Yes, Alderman Borneman.
is there well, I guess my question, you said there are 30 homes that are actually occupied who've had their water shut off?
There's 30 residential properties that we believe may be occupied. We don't know that for a fact, but there's 30 properties that were residential properties that were that the water was turned off. 6 of them were owner-occupied residences, so the other 24 were apartments of some type or housing rentals.
So when the 1,200 number is there, that's nowhere near the actual number of what we're dealing with.
No, the shut-off report only showed 226.
226 what?
Locations that had water turned off. And a lot of these are landlords who are not currently running their properties, and they're not paying their bills because they're not renting them. Some are in probate, and so nobody's paying those bills. Others are vacant properties for one reason or another, that the property owner has decided not to pay their bill, and it's vacant right now.
Where did do you know where the 1,200 number is from?
That was probably, well, that number, there's a difference between a water shutoff report and a water shutoff notice. The notice does not necessarily mean that we've shut people's water off. It's just that we're sending them a notice that we're going to shut them off. A lot of people we have pay their bills once they get those notices. And So a notice does not mean that we actually turn them off.
Okay. And I'm going to repeat myself again. But there's 226 residences that had their water actually.
No, we had 226 locations that had their water turned off, not residences, locations.
Locations, and that could be like buildingless property, abandoned homes.
Well, I believe one of them would be, there's a store downtown that has 4 apartments above it that's vacant, that they haven't paid the bills on those apartments, and so those are ones that we turned off because they weren't paid, but he's paying for his business usage for his water. You have those kind of situations in there. I mean, like I said, you got...
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And this is since when?
When? This is over the last...
Yeah.
This is over the last 3 months.
Okay. You said the number 30. Can you repeat what that was?
There were 30 owner-occupied residences that had their water turned off.
So how are we going about notifying public about the ability to get their water turned back on?
When the council adopted the ordinance, it was put on our Facebook page, and word of mouth gets around a lot further than anything else. We have not gone out and publicly advertised that we're putting people back on.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that from my perspective, it's a pandemic. There's going to be long-term problems that this creates. But is there a way for us to a little more efficiently? So in the short term, we are dealing kind of solely with the public health, right?
Well, I guess first I have to say I agree with you. It is a crisis situation, but these are people that were turned off before the governor said we couldn't turn people off, and we are turning them on. We don't have to turn them on, but I made an administrative decision to turn anyone on that requested it, and all they have to do is call and ask. Now I've got one person I'm dealing with that is a squatter, basically. The landlord does not want the water turned on. They do not have a lease. They just moved into the apartment, and they expect us to give them free water. So that's one that we're not going to deal with. It's up to the landlord to decide whether to give them a lease, and if they have a lease, we're more than happy to turn the water on. But right now, they just moved in and took over an apartment.
Okay.
So as you can see, Alderman Borneman, it really is a case by case, and like Manager Bucas said, anyone that's in any of those 26 residents that are still in that part, they are welcome to call, and case by case, that decision will be made.
Right, and we'll lean as much as we can to give them their water. I mean, because what we do is we inform the people when they call, the 4 people that call and anybody else that calls, that 1, they're still responsible for the old bill. 2, they're going to be responsible for their current consumption. And 3, if they are not current come May 2nd, which is probably Saturday, we will turn them off. And we are sending them a letter in that regard too. So they're fairly well aware that this is only a temporary situation until this crisis is over with or comes to some kind of conclusion.
Okay. Well, is there a way to, I guess, like you said, you distill this and provide it to the council?
I didn't I'm sorry, Alderman, I didn't understand what you said. You broke up.
Yeah, never mind. It was already answered.
If I may, Your Honor, make one more comment. Looking at the preliminary numbers right now for March, it looks like our collections in the Water and Sewer Department are about $80,000 less in March than they were last year. So people aren't paying their bills.
Alderman Parker.
I have one last
Sure.
question. Are you able to learn from other communities on how they're handling this? Are you aware of anything like our policy?
If I understood you correctly, you're asking if other communities are doing what we're doing. The answer is some are. I'm on a listserv, and every now and then somebody will ask a question, but I couldn't tell you how many communities around us or in the state of Illinois are doing it. Most everybody's just following the current policy or current proclamation from the governor that they're not turning anybody off.
To turn someone on, it's not some switch at the water department, right?
Can you repeat that?
The process of actually turning water on, that's not just something done at the water department, correct? But not like a switch that they hit.
No, we have to go to the site, and there's a curb box. It's called a curb box that we have to. There's a certain key you use, and you put your key into the curb box, and you turn the water on or off at the curb.
And if the public wants to know, you direct them to contact the water department.
Can you repeat that?
If the public has questions, they should contact the water department
Yes.
directly.
Yes, if the people have questions about their water, they should contact the water department. They'll be more than happy to talk to them.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, City Manager Bucus. Each and every person is responsible for their own meter in their house, correct?
That is correct.
And if that meter becomes damaged, that is their responsibility to have it repaired or replaced on their costs.
That is correct also.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
He already answered mine.
McClanahan?
thank you. Manager Bucus, going back to the property tax delay, you said that information came from the county treasurer, or was it someone else?
No, the property tax delay came from the county treasurer last Thursday night.
Okay, and that was by email?
Yes.
Thank you. And at the risk of being redundant from what you just said with Alderman Borneman, any questions or concerns about water shutoff can be directed to Water and Sewer Department, and the remaining 25 or so individuals that were pre-shut off can individually contact City Hall to have their case addressed on a case-by-case basis.
That is correct. They could contact the water department, and we'll look at it.
Thank you.
If that's all, I just have a couple things I wanted to talk about. Just to let you know that there is an incredible amount of collaboration going on behind the scenes that most people are not aware of. We are working daily with many agencies. We have regular phone calls with the governor and the White House. We have regular meetings and teleconferences between the police department, the fire department, the county, the sheriff, the health department, the EMA, as well as FHN. We're all working on the same agenda, and that being the health and the safety of our community. So I would like to ask the public to do their part to slow this spread, because I believe that together we can get through this. That will leave to council business, which would be, we'll start with Alderman Borneman. Alderman Borneman, did you have anything you wanted to say for this evening?
Yeah, I had to turn my mic on. Just urge the public to practice what is being told to them by medical professionals. I mean, I know it seems awkward to wear a mask in public, but that's what doctors are recommending, and they're the people who know to. Wash your hands, avoid touching your face, and avoid going out in public. And it's frustrating for all of us, but it's really important. And if there's a group of people who are following practice and making these sacrifices, and then the group who's not, it's limiting the effectiveness of these other sacrifices that the public's making. So hopefully you could hear that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alderman McClanathan?
Thank you. I'd like to echo those comments. I think the health department put it best, the county health department, when they said today, even though it's nice weather, if they don't live with you, you shouldn't be around them outside of the essential services and meetings. So please, let's all pull our weight and help our community get through these tough times together.
Thank you. Alderman Ross?
Yes, I'd like to just say, let's practice more safe distance. That's the only way we're going to get through this. Thank you.
Alderman Parker?
Nothing.
Thank you. Alderman Busker?
Nothing to add for that's best said. Just stay home and stay healthy.
Alderman Bradshaw?
I just want to tell the public to stay home and stay safe. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Alderman Isaac?
Nothing tonight, thank you, ma'am.
And Alderman Berberay?
Whether we're in a pandemic or not, life really is a matter of personal responsibility, dealing with your water, dealing with your safety. Personal responsibility is very important. Sorry for sounding so preachy, but it's important.
We agree. That leaves us with item number 20, which is public comments. If there's any public comments, sure, you can go up to the microphone and then you have 3 minutes.
Hello? Please hold.
Hi there. My name is Carl Utt. I'm from the 4th Ward. I'd like to thank Mr. Parker for practicing a socially distant visit to my driveway on Friday to come see me. I do appreciate it. I wanted to put a face to the water issue because I've talked to a lot of you over the weekend. And one thing I want to address just quickly here before I move into my comments, at no time did anybody in our group say that there were 1,260 properties that had people in them without water. That was not what we said. We said there were 1,260 lots without water, and without knowing how many of those properties had people in them, that was our concern. And that's why we wanted to address it and bring it to everybody's attention. And from the conversations we had, it wasn't a topic that most people in this body were aware of at the time. So we're happy we did it. And if it's only 30 people, we're going to fight until we get every person who lives in a residence their water on. Because we're in a pandemic. It needs to be done. So we're going to keep calling. We're going to keep talking to you about it until every person has water. If we can't get them water there, we need to come up with another solution. I hear a lot about what we're doing in this community for business owners. I hear a lot about what we're doing for the people who lost jobs or can't go to work. There are a lot of people in this community that didn't have this before the pandemic started. We need to look out for these people. They have nothing right now. So when I hear us talk about helping people, our first priority right now is to help those people that have nothing. There are a lot of people in this community that already do that work, but we need to band together and do more, because this pandemic and the economic fallout from it is going to make that problem much worse than it looks like most of us are paying attention to in most communities, not just ours. So I'm sure behind the scenes there's a lot of conversations happening about that topic. I just want you to know that we're here to help with that. We're not here to, inflame any situation. I think everybody we talked to over the weekend should be able to say that we were respectful and we were there to look for solutions. Last thing I'll add to that is, we wish we would have had the answer of how many properties had people in it on Friday. That's what we were really looking for. So we could have, gone the weekend actually helping people with stuff rather than, talking about speculation on things we didn't know if we had had that answer. I'm not saying anybody had that answer on Friday, but, it probably would have helped the situation.
Sir, your 3 minutes is up.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Madam Clerk?
Me to read. This is from Christine Ide. This is an extraordinary time for our community and our world. We as a community need to make every effort to keep individuals and the entire community as safe as possible. Water is a human right, a justice issue, and a health issue. I urge you to make every effort to turn on water for all Freeport residents. This means eliminating any financial barrier and attempting to inform all who may be affected that you are willing to do this and how they initiate this happening. Thanks for your service to Freeport residences. Another one from Connie Sorn. I recently heard there are people in Freeport without running water. I am writing to request that you find a way to turn the water back on for these residents. It affects the whole town, mostly in a physical way, because our town is only as healthy as its most unhealthy citizen. It also affects our town in other ways. I don't want to live in a town where the decision makers only think of the service from a money standpoint. There has to be a way to work with the citizens to get the water turned back on. In the meantime, while we are in the midst of a pandemic, please see fit to turn on the water. That's all I have on that topic.
Okay, are there any ones that you have on hold?
Well, let
Because
me
we
see
still
here.
have room for 3 more on that topic.
Hello? Are you here? Okay, can you speak again? I have you on speakerphone. Speak again, please.
Hello?
Okay. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name is Jody Cost, and sorry, it's really confusing. So many of you know that I've been working with other volunteers in the area. We've been delivering food and medicine to people that are high risk or elderly. I was actually at a Cub Food today shopping for a 90-year-old shut-in, and I wore a mask and glove, but I can tell you dismally, I was really disappointed that only about 10% of the people that were in Cub Foods were actually wearing masks. So that was a bit of a concern today. On REX today, Stevenson County scored a D- in our social distancing. So I know that we can do better on that. I know also that one of the people that we are trying to deliver food to does not have water, and he's been told when he called he just called like 2 hours ago today. He was told that he needed to pay his $700 that he owed. So I'm going to be encouraging him to call the water department, I guess, tomorrow, and hopefully we'll work that out. I'm going to skip ahead, and I'm going to talk a little bit about communication. I would really like to see our city leaders step up and lead right now. There's a lot of rumors, confusion, a lot of people worried, and I just feel like that we
that our leaders could do more to communicate to our city. You have the cable channel, you have the YouTube channel, you have all of that equipment set up. And I don't understand why someone, either Jody Miller, the city manager, or someone that you actually appoint, couldn't use that once a day at a certain time. To only have the communications coming from the health department is not enough. Adult learners learn better by hearing things. Adults need to hear things 7 times before they understand it. It needs to be written at either a 7th, actually today I even heard a 3rd grade level. And so the things coming out of the health department are not written. And I just think that if we had someone that stepped up and gave daily reports, that it would help our community get through this better. There's tons of things to talk about. The person could talk about the people that are selling masks and make sure that everyone in our community knows how to get those masks. You could talk about Albert's tow truck driving through the town, and did everyone see it? You could let people know that Deininger Flowers delivered flowers last week. You could give out the elderly hours.
I'm
what
very
time
sorry,
that they could
Jody.
go to the store.
I'm sorry, Jody, your time is up.
All right, so I just hope that you are able to give us more communication in the future.
Thank you. Bye. Shall I read the other ones? Well, and give somebody a chance. Okay. We had a phone call from Tom Tyke, who would like to let the mayor know she does a good job. And we had an email from Rose Small. Why are we not seeing updates on TV like the Winnebago Rockford are doing, even if it is not daily, at least weekly, or as things change? Not all community members have access to Facebook or internet. Stevenson County residents need to know. Thank you. That's all I have. If you want to give another minute for the phone.
It appears that that is the conclusion of public comments, since the phone's not ringing. So next is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Ross, seconded by Alderman Misick for adjourning. Clerk, would you like to take the roll on that?
Oh, yes. I'm not ready. Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Misick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Alderman Parker is absent.
Okay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, and have a safe evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.